Hello everyone, Luna here. I'm back, and this time I wanted to build an old mansion and fill it with antique furniture. As usual, I started with a box for the main hall and added more rooms. In the front, I built an entrance and placed stairs on the side. Then I proceeded by adjusting the proportions. You can create interesting looking towers and turrets by stacking rooms of different shapes and sizes on one another. I liked this idea, so I made another layered tower on the right. On the back, I built a conservatory on the top floor and added a small terrace. The house should have a mansard roof. You can achieve this by building a 1 tile smaller room and framing the walls with half-hipped roof pieces. Then I added more roofs, made the main room smaller and changed the proportions. I also built a tall, narrow room on the left. I wasn't quite happy yet with the overall shape and made some more adjustments. On the front, I decided to add a round porch. This is a nice contrast to the otherwise angular build. I started decorating it with columns and spandrels. I moved the tower on the right and built the lower part new. Then I connected the mansard roof to the top with a small fence and a trim. Multiple arches should lead from the entrance to the porch. I wanted to make a custom shape, so I layered various arches. I decorated the roof with the wedding beacons from my wedding stories. Then I layered Saladin's hammer from Get Together on top. You can make the wedding beacons narrower with the tool mod by TwistedMexi. For this you have to rotate them by a specific angle. Fantasims made a great YouTube tutorial about smushing objects with the tool mod. I began to change the color scheme and exchanged the front fence for the fleur de fence from Get Together. I adore the gothic pattern and heavy wood look. Then I added black roof trims. Here I'm placing the protruding frieze from Vampires, which is my favorite frieze in the game. I placed the roof on the conservatory in the back, which I will later put a transparent pattern on. I wanted to repeat the round shape on the back terrace, so I copied the porch and adjusted it accordingly. On the flat room on the left, I added a roof and built a tiny balcony. Then I adjusted the lower part of the right tower because it looked a bit clunky. With the frieze, the corbel or length corbel from Cats and Dogs, and the ornate Victorian columns from Vampires, this gets a beautiful shape. Decorating the exterior is one of my favorite things to do when building. Placing columns, spandrels, trims, friezes, roof decorations and other elements gives the shell already so much more character. Below the conservatory I added some corbels. I think it looks amazing when the corbels are stabilizing parts which exceed the lower floor. Then I started to add windows. I added the grand gable from Cottage Living on top of the wood glass windows from Get Together with the red stained glass. I think dormers are a great addition to roofs. I used the accented roof dormers from Vampires and built a dormer from half walls. I repeated the wood glass window and grand gable combination under the left turret and added some roofs to make it look more connected. The low roof didn't fit the overall structure, so I stretched it and adjusted the size of the decorations. Then I added more columns and framed the roofs with the curved iron fence and dentil exterior trim, both from base game. I placed some narrow windows on the towers and started to layer the astral window from Realm of Magic and the Victorian windows from Vampires. They give each other some great detail. Afterwards, I started painting the walls. I wanted the main hall to look more massive. The other parts should look as if they were added later and built of lighter materials. I tried to achieve this by choosing the solid stone blocks from Jungle Adventure for the middle part and Tudor as well as wood wall patterns for the additional rooms. I decided to use the country carriage roof from base game. The pink color harmonizes well with the red stained glass windows. I added these debug fence pieces from base game to the entrance arches. The Sims can walk through them. When it comes to roof decorating, I can't add enough of it. This just provides so much more detail to a build and makes it more interesting and complex. I wanted to add some stone corner accents, which I learned are called coins. I first saw Araladia on Instagram place some blank canvases from the base game debug as coins. I decided to use the flower woodcut from Get Together because the color fits and I love the flower detail. I alternated bigger and smaller ones, copying and elevating them with the tool mod. The bigger ones were overlapping the columns, so I moved them a bit to the back. Now I add some windows to the conservatory so that it lets a lot of light into the study. I started to add these bramble clings from the Vampires pack. This gives the build this overgrown and old look. Then I placed the layup house flowers from Get Together. I think they make builds look so much more romantic. As shown in my previous speed build, you can build walls below overhanging parts of the build and replace them with spandrels for some decorative elements. Then I decorated the terrace by adding the post with the most from Cottage Living and the string lights for ants from the Little Campers kit. I adjusted the size and position with the tool mod. Fairy lights just add some magic to everything, and I want to build a cozy outdoor place on this terrace. Now to the interior part. I chose the elegant parquet flooring from base game and the flowered vines wainscoting from Cottage Living for the walls. I worked with this half wall, which helps to structure the room. I decided to make this part the kitchen, extended it to the narrow room and painted the floors accordingly. Cabinets look great, especially when using different parts. I chose an open floor plan and placed the dining table right next to the kitchen. For the kitchen, I like to paint the wall behind the stove and add lights under the cabinets. Then I placed some clutter such as a scale, ingredients, a cookbook, spices, dried herbs and aprons. Again, the tool mod comes in handy for exact placement. I also added a sink next to the kitchen and decorated it with a dish soap and a towel. The Sims don't have to empty the NanoCan Touchless trash can from base game. It doesn't really fit the aesthetic though. I've seen Ordonius80 cover this trash can with some debug objects that did not interfere with the functionality. I used a tome from the Realm of Magic debug. Then I moved on to the living room. You see there is this ladder which looks a bit awkward. So I placed a fake spiral stair made of the gothic wall shelf from Vampires. The Sims ignore the shelves and use the ladder as always. I placed some clutter to make the room look lived in. I love to cover the walls in pictures and make some custom collages. To separate the living room a bit, I used the see-through room divider from City Living. Then I added more details. I furnished the little bathroom. Now I'm decorating the terrace. I decided to make a cozy sitting place and then added some garden pots on the other side. On the top floor, I added the same floor and wall pattern. In the conservatory, I decorated the little study with a cozy reading place made from half-tile cabinets and ottomans. I decorated this bedroom with the more truly fearless wainscoting from the Decor to the Max kit. Placing some columns can smooth the edges a bit. I used a flower woodcut to fill in the lower gaps. Then I put the ancient resting place bed from Vampires and the chalked down rug from City Living in the room. I added a closet, a mirror, some details and clutter. Here is the main bathroom. I separated the toilet and the shower with the wall and placed a lot of details. This is the master bedroom. I had some difficulties deciding on the color scheme. In the end, I chose the vibrant turquoise divinity leaf wall pattern from the Paranormal pack. I placed the librarian's pillar from Discover University in the hallways and made a really long rug with the custom Victorian runner from Vampires. On the attic, I used the stained glass windows from Realm of Magic. If I used clear windows, you would see the roof through it, which looks a bit strange. I moved the build to the summer house lot in Windenburg. The house should sit on a hill with a lake next to it. For the path leading to the hill, I made like little stair steps with a flattened terrain tool. Then I used a smooth terrain tool. I repeated this process until the path looked walkable, playtested it and painted it accordingly. I started to shape a path behind the lake. As before, I made steps and smoothed them. On the front path there should be a platform on the way for the Sims to rest. I used the muddy mud terrain paint from base game on the edges to make the landscape more natural and give it some more contrast. It may look a bit strange right now, but we will get there. Here is the little lake. I added water in it and made a part for the Sims to play in. I placed the first few trees and adjusted the size with the tool mod. Then I started to add the rocks. I used the debug rocks from Get Together so that the lot fits well with the surrounding landscape. This rock is built like a small wall, so it covers a lot of surface, which is great for placing them on the sides of the hill. This process consists of a lot of copying and placing rocks. I used the tool mod from TwistedMexi to copy the rocks by clicking Alt and Shift while the rock is marked in green. I used the gravity pull function from the mod by holding Alt while clicking on the floor. This way I could pull the rocks in the direction I clicked on the floor. The further you click, the stronger the pull. To make the rocks look more natural, I tried to vary them a bit in size. I wanted to put them everywhere where the default steep landscape color comes out. On the side of the hill, I used bigger rocks to cover more of the default color. If there are any gaps left, I fill them with smaller rocks. I also used smaller rocks on the top of the hill and paths to frame them. Then I used the muddy mud terrain paint from base game to paint the bottom of the lake and around the rocks and trees. You see, this looks way more natural. After that, I started cluttering everything up with plants. I tried to repeat the grass, bushes and flowers to give the lot some consistency. I placed the plants on the sides of the rocks and also between them. The secret to natural and romantic landscapes is adding a lot of plants. Place trees, bushes, flowers, grass and then place some more. The tall, flat base game debug bush with the white flowers can be copied and stacked on itself. This way you can create a vine-like plant to cover rocks and sides of buildings. I think it looks very romantic. I tried to vary the plants in size and rotation to give them some randomness which looks more natural. You can find a lot of amazing plants in the debug menu. For example, it has the plants that are used in the neighborhoods. This is good if you want to make your lot fit seamlessly into the surroundings. With some of the plants you have to be a bit careful though, because their footprint will interfere with the Sim's path. So you have to playtest if the Sim can walk past them. Here I'm framing the path some more and adding plants to the empty looking spaces. Then I added some trees. I started to place some small rocks. The gathering of garden stones from base game are great for cluttering. I sometimes like to add them indoors. You see they are floating on the hill. Fortunately, they can be tool rotated, so they're perfect for inclined paths. I placed them on the sides of the paths and varied them in size. I can't add enough of these. The smaller rocks provide the paths with some dimension. After that, I used the muddy mud terrain paint from base game again to frame the rocks, plants and garden stones. The color should be stronger on the edges and lighter towards the inside, so that you get this beautiful gradient. With the debug garden path stones from base game, I laid out a small path behind the house. I continued by decorating some parts of the building that I forgot. You see, my build process is all over the place. I wanted to add a long chimney to the house but didn't find one the right size. So I layered the Big Puff's salty chimney from cats and dogs. I used a simple foundation from base game under the tiny balcony. This foundation is invisible but leaves a weird gap on the floor and wall. I covered it up with plants on the floor and by building a basement wall right next to it. Now I added some garden pots with lavender on the balcony and the front porch. Then I proceeded to decorate the landscape. I placed these benches, some outdoor lights and trash cans. I used these base game stones. Unfortunately, they can't be too rotated, so I had to adjust the height to prevent them from floating. I also adjusted the paths a bit. Then I painted the terrain again on the sides of the newly placed rocks and also around the trees. And that's it, the build is finished. Thank you so much for watching and see you soon!